to Ireland versus Scotland. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion. And joining me to go over all of the action is Mr. Cornflake. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very, very well. Interesting matchup. I thought we would have had a bit more excitement from this one, but Rugby World Cup 8, we've got our big guns are coming out and they're showing off.
Yep. Everyone was kind of down on Ireland coming into this because they didn't have a particularly... obviously, they beat New Zealand in November. They didn't have particularly good Six Nations. Obviously lost by a big margin to England. And then, had a couple of games against Wales where they started to look a bit better. But tonight, hey, they stamped their authority on this game well, true and proper. And I think it was a big lesson, folks, that you don't pay too much attention to the pre-season games. Because you know what? There's a whole bunch of stuff going on where players are being absolutely beasted during the week so that they're ready, and therefore they're knackered when they come to game day and they're not prepared. Ireland is back. I think you mean Ireland's back, Blossom. But yes, you're absolutely right. Ireland is. I'm not quite sure they went anywhere, per se, but they're definitely back in the international scheme of things. And it kicked off, and I thought this was going to be a perfect game for Scotland because it was frenetic in that first 2 or 3 minutes. It was all over the place, broken field play. It took a while to settle down, didn't it?
It did a bit, and neither side really looked too comfortable playing that style of game. They were
you think
both.
So? I thought Scotland were. I thought it was playing perfectly into Scotland's hands.
It was, but I don't think they were really controlling it too well. They were using up a bit of luck. They were taking, I guess, scrappy sort of play, which I guess is playing into their hands a bit more than the Irish. And they did have the better of the opening exchanges, but you're not going to continue to play a full game like that. That's never going to last. Someone's going to have to knuckle down sooner or later. And I just think, ultimately, come when the game did settle down, they completely lost their way from there on. And they, like we talked about a lot, they didn't have a plan, a really good plan or an alternative plan to how they were playing.
Well, we'll get into that in a second, but you're right. As soon as they Taylor threw a pass that went into touch rather than finding a player, Ireland just took control. Once they got that line out and they had a bit of structure to the play, they knuckled down. And their tight five in particular, but the whole pack absolutely went to work and won this one. They bashed over for their opening try. We had a line out maul with some maybe a bit questionable whether Rory Best got the ball down or not for the second try, and suddenly it's 12-14, and you're talking that's nearly points a minute. I mean, we're talking that's steaming along, which in this you don't expect against two tier one sides of this kind of level.
You don't expect a point a minute against two tier one sides. I mean, Ireland certainly took every chance that they were given.
They did.
And I think Scotland were wasteful of the chance. You talk about how Ireland really opened up from a Scottish mistake. But, I mean, take your pick. I mean, any time that Scotland got into an attacking area, they got into an attacking chance, they built up some phases, they would just make an error. And they were extremely error-ridden. And that, I mean, you talk about the start being scrappy and like that, but that was just Ireland playing Scotland's game that they just continued to play all along. And like I said before, you just can't play that type of game and expect to win all the way through. And you just give away too much chances, you give away too much ball, and that's not going to get you a good result against a top team like Ireland are.
Yeah, and Ireland were very clinical because that pass into touch, they went down for a try. The next time in the 15, they get a try. Scotland drop the ball, they kick it through, they get a 5-metre scrum, they get a try. They were, in that first half hour, it was, Ireland hardly had any territorial ball, but every time they got it, they scored. And Scotland just were not breaking down Ireland. Ireland, I'm not quite sure what they finished at, but they were running in the 90s% for their tackling. They were definitely early on. They were up there, 94% tackling. I mean, they only missed 8 tackles all game out of 139 attempts. That is phenomenal from Ireland.
And it shut down all their attack, didn't it, too? The Scots had very, very little, you're not breaking a tackle, you're not mismatching defenders, you're not finding overlaps because you're always a man on, and that man on always makes his tackle. So it really, really hit their defence. Their attack hard when they just couldn't bust through, and the key guys just weren't making the plays that they were probably banking on them doing.
Yeah, and it looked when Ireland were having rushing players rushing out in defence, but they knew who to go for. They rush out and hit Hogg because it's going through Hogg. They rush out and hit Russell because it's going through Russell. It's going through those two guys. Something I mentioned. So Steve did a live stream the whole way through the game. I popped on at half time. We had a chat about the game, and that's one of the things I mentioned there was that look. It was just too predictable that going through two players. They needed to mix it up. They needed to show different pictures to this Irish defence, which they didn't do, and which made it too easy for Ireland. It then started raining at half-time. And we had the commentators come on and go, it's going to make it really slippery. Guys, we're talking about Ireland and Scotland. Two places where it never rains, apparently. Absolute desert, the two places. Hey, come on. We have a term called Scotch mist for a reason. Ireland is boggy. You know what? If you've got bogs, you've got rain to put water in those bogs. It's wet in both countries. They're used to playing with the ball wet. If they can't play in the rain, what's the point? They will not be at this level. So it's a farcical talk from the commentators, and I don't think actually the handling was that bad. I mean, sure, the kicks weren't being held well, but the kicks weren't being held well in the first half.
Yeah, it continued on much the same, didn't it? But I think the game did change a lot. I think Ireland shut off fairly early when they scored that second half try. It was pretty much good night nurse. Then they closed the gates, but they were happy. They were happy to test Scotland under the high ball a lot more, and they were just happy to force them into errors. And it was kind of like we talked about in the stream. A few comments, people coming in saying Ireland's just standing there and they're just saying, "Come on. Have a go. If you think you're good enough, let's go. We'll kick to the 10-metre line of our own half. You got 40 metres. Bring it on. What can you do?" And time again, they get to the 22 and they'd cough it up, or they'd make an error, or something would go wrong for them. So it didn't change. The game kind of changed a bit of momentum-wise, but the results of the kicks and that didn't change at all. And Scotland just couldn't really tee it up. And their kicking game, I think, dwindled as the game wore on because they just were getting so desperate to put something over the line. They were just hammering away from everywhere they could, albeit one player out.
I thought from that to that first sort of 10-15 minutes until they gave up that try, that Scotland were much more patient in the second half. In the first half, it looked like they were trying to score off every single play. There was no building up for it. There's no spin it wide and try let's get outside this rush defence, or kick it up, let's challenge and score. There was no structure or trying to pull Ireland into a certain shape before they attacked, or earning the right to go wide as the kind of cliche term. It was just straight away, let's try and score. Whereas they became much more patient, went through a few phases, and were looking to find the gap rather than force the gap, I felt, from after half time. They didn't get any reward for it, but I thought they were playing better.
Yeah, I think a big turning point in this game was the box kicking in the second half from Conor Murray, when he smacked those 2 or 3 in a row that landed right outside the 22 by half a metre. That was a telling play that put immense pressure on the Scots on their ball taking. They couldn't take a mark. They couldn't fully commit to a mark. They had to try to keep it alive. They they struggled to really contain it. And I thought that accuracy on those kicks was a massive turning point, and that put them under that pressure. They lost the ball. It got a bit scrappy on them, and that resulted in that try that was ultimately that last nail in the coffin. But it just goes to show that when he's on his game, Conor Murray is going to be a guy that can certainly produce in the big moments in this World Cup. Yeah,
absolutely. And after that, at 55 minutes, 24-3, it was all over, and Ireland knew it because they emptied the bench. Straight away, anyone who was important that they could get off the pitch came off the pitch. Murray, Sexton, they were pulled. And yeah, they emptied the bench. The only, I think they left the captain on, was about the only person. Rory Best was probably the only person, who got man of the match, by the way, was probably about the only player who didn't get subbed off in this game. So, I thought that, 25 minutes to go, you're pulling off your best players in what's supposed to be your toughest pool game That's what a luxury for Ireland to have.
I mean, if I'm going to pick on the bench a bit, well, I'm not going to pick on, I'm going to praise it. The Irish bench, Chris Farrell, fantastic when he come on. Really made a difference. His attacking play, he was in everything. He was a massive addition off the bench. I thought he was brilliant. And if we're going to pinpoint players while we're at it, Bundy Key, start off, a couple of ruck turnovers early on in the match was a big play for him too to get Ireland up on the front foot. So they had guys that are really performing. For me, if I was picking Ireland team, Chris Farrell, man, I'll put him into the starting team next match. Well, even though it's not going to be a big important match, but I would love to see some more of him. He will look really dynamic, attack and defence, and standout player in the green jersey. Yeah,
and we saw some sort of globetrotter rugby when it was still raining around that hour mark from Ireland, which was brilliant. They did get a yellow card late on, but let's be honest, the game was well and truly bolted by then. The game was all over. As I say, when you're emptying your bench on 55 minutes, that's when the game is over for this one. Scotland. So what do we take out of this game? I guess for as far as the pool goes, Ireland are definitely going to top the pool.
Well, yeah, it's beyond a doubt now, isn't it? It's far beyond a doubt. I mean, coming into this World Cup, I suspected worrying times for Scotland. I even predicted them to not make it out of the pool in the place of the Japanese home team. So, yep, if we're going to be back in our predictions, I will probably be quite happy with that result, personally. But, yeah, they look troubled. I mean, I think Russia, they'll scamper past, but boy, Samoa is going to give them a bit of worry, isn't it? And Japan is as well. But Ireland, yeah, they look good. They look good, and we talk about so much.
You want to talk about Scotland? Let's talk about Scotland before we go back on Ireland. Then Scotland are not going to come across another pack like this, and this Irish pack bullied them against Russia, Samoa, Japan. Their pack isn't going to get totally bullied in the same way they did tonight. So there is that positivity to look forward to for them. So it's not all over for Scotland, but it's definitely worrying signs to be shut out like this.
I mean, I've got more of a concern for Scotland is the fact that Samoa will be watching it, for example, because I'll be playing them, and the guys sitting 10, 12, 13 are going to have a pretty simple game plan. And if Scotland don't adjust that pretty simple game plan, like you've talked about, it's going to be Finn Russell, Stuart Hogg, that just really don't have anything else, and they didn't veer off that whatsoever. And if there's a game where you're going to come out and make a statement at the World Cup, that was it. That was their chance, and they looked one-dimensional. They looked quickly out of ideas. There was a lot of aimless kicking as well as some very good kicking at the same point as well, but just disappointing. And it reminded me, because personally, I don't see too much of these Northern Hemisphere nations. That's why I just love the World Cup, because I get to see a bit more of them. But Beauden Barrett against Australia in Perth, he was far too heavily involved from what I've seen, watching All Black games. Stuart Hogg looked like a carbon copy of that to me. Too much involved, did too much. Rather than waiting for the play to come to him in space, he went to the play where he didn't have the space to do it. I just think they need to mix it up and do something else and trust those other guys. We know what Sean Maitland can do. Sam Johnson looked fantastic. Duncan Taylor had, I think, a bit of a shaky night because he dropped a lot of ball, but is still a decent enough player that can do things on his own 2 feet. So they've got to put a bit more trust to them. Give some running plays. I mean, how many teams do we see out there that hit the winger straight off set pieces?
Yep.
Hardly seen that. And aimless passes from Finn Russell that just had no idea. I mean, I felt sorry for some of those some of that pack players when they come off a scrum or they come back from a line out and he just goes, here you go. And they're just like, well, what do I do? They need a bit more structure.
The final thing for them is Hamish Watson's injury. Unfortunately, in a big knee brace, looks like he's out for the tournament. And he is a key player for them. He's a player that when John O'Connor and I did our preview for the tournament, said, right, who's the most indispensable player per team? He was the man for them. Now he's gone. That's a massive loss for them.
Yeah, huge. And it's sad to see. I mean, first game of the World Cup, big injury like that. Like you say, suspected to be out for the tournament. Such a key player. and gives that extra dynamism to that back row. He's the agility. He's the man who can upset the ball. He can get around the field quickly. He's not quite the power like the Barkley and the Wilson is in that back row as well. So they're going to miss that from him. So big loss for Scotland. And the question marks come back, don't they? Well, who comes in now? Yep. Where do they fit? So,
big problems. They brought on their reserve hooker to cover for him. So that gives you an idea as to what their bench was like. But anyway, on to Ireland now. Massive statement, great win. The group is all theirs. Everything rosy, apart from two things, I think. One, injuries. We lost Bundyaki to a head injury. We lost, I think Van der Fleer went off and then came back on again as well. So they had a few guys getting injured. The most important guy who got injured was Johnny Sexton. He stayed out there, but he stopped doing anything and basically made other people do all his work for him. We had Colin Murray taking his kicks, other players being pulled in saying, right, here's the ball, I'm not running with it, you come here, do my tackling for me. That's a massive worry for them, isn't it?
Yeah, the question I have, though, for you, might know a bit more about it, is this a new injury or this is reoccurring from what he set out a lot of the build-up games?
Good question, don't know, to be honest.
He had quite a bit of a niggle in the build-up, didn't he? That saw him miss pretty much everything except for that last Welsh test. So that's a problem. I mean, either way, it's a problem. If it's a flare-up, that could be even worse, I think. But yeah, injuries are, I mean, name a team that injuries aren't going to be a concern. Everyone's going to get in the same boat. It just depends who goes down. And yeah, Sexton's going to be a big guy if he doesn't go down. If he does go down, I should say. But they need as many people to stay fit. A lot of their injuries, I thought, were either head injuries or blood bins and things like that. So they don't look too serious at first glance. But we'll see in the coming days, I guess.
Yep. And the other thing that we've not seen actually so far from Ireland, and they didn't need to be fair, is we've not seen any attack from them. This was solid defence. The forwards chucking it up and pinpoint kicking, box kicking, and surviving or punishing. Sorry, not surviving. Punishing Scotland errors. So the other question mark is: do Ireland have an attack? Because if they don't, then that's going to trouble them when they come across a pack that isn't going to get bullied in the same way that Scotland have. Now that's not going to happen to them until the knockout stages. So we're not going to know for another 3 weeks. Or 4 weeks, whatever it is. But that's my only other question mark around Ireland. Otherwise, fantastic start for them.
Yeah, spot on. And I don't think anyone can really answer that question until we get to the quarterfinal stages of the competition, because they're not going to want to reveal their hand. No one of a top-tier nation is going to want to reveal the full hand until they have to. Ireland will just cruise on through. They'll blast their way through the pool now. They look too impressive from that. They do look clinical. And they're going to punish the smaller sides. They're going to make errors. And like I say, they're going to dominate the pack. So they're going to cruise on through nicely. And then we'll see what Ireland really have to offer when they come up against the big boys later on in the tournament. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you very much for your time and for coming on the show. Thank you for having me earlier as well. But now we must dash off and watch England versus Tonga. So I will pop on over to Twitter at DrivingMaul and chat with me during that game. Are you going to be staying up or have you got work?
Oh, both. I've got work, but I ain't missing the World Cup. I ain't missing the World Cup at all. Not for no one. Expect to see me at work, tired, but I don't care.
Okay, so Cornflake on Twitter, DrivingMaul on Twitter. Come and join us for England versus Tonga and a good old chat during that one too.